The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched beyond sight, its crystal walls reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. Ancient beings from across the galaxy sat in their designated sections, their forms as diverse as the worlds they represented. Some floated in energy fields, others towered on multiple legs, and a few existed as pure consciousness within mechanical shells. At the center of this vast chamber stood a simple podium where humanity would make their case. Dr. Elena Vasquez walked toward the podium with steady steps. Her heart pounded, but her face remained calm. Behind her, the small human delegation looked tiny compared to the massive alien representatives. Elena had spent her entire career studying stars, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. Today, humanity would ask to join the most powerful organization in the galaxy. The Council's speaker, a being that looked like living crystal, spoke in a voice that echoed through every mind present. The species calling itself humanity seeks membership in our council. They have submitted their request and we have reviewed their capabilities. Elena reached the podium and looked up at the thousands of alien eyes watching her. Some glowed, others reflected light in strange ways, and many were completely unlike anything on Earth. She cleared her throat and began to speak. Honored council members, humanity comes before you today seeking not just membership, but partnership. Our world faces an energy crisis that threatens our survival. Our sun provides limited power and our fossil fuels are running out. We have learned of stellar engineering technology that could solve this problem. We ask for access to this knowledge so we can save our people and contribute to galactic civilization. A low sound filled the chamber. It took Elena a moment to realize it was laughter. The alien beings were actually laughing at her request. The crystalline speaker raised what might have been a hand, and silence returned. Young species, the speaker said, its voice carrying clear amusement. You have existed for mere thousands of years. Your technology is primitive. Your understanding of the universe is limited. Stellar engineering is not for children playing with forces beyond their comprehension. Elena felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her voice steady. We may be young, but we learn quickly. Give us a chance to prove ourselves. Share the basic principles, and we will show you what humans can accomplish. Another council member spoke up. This one appeared to be made of flowing metal. Your species still fights wars over resources. You poison your own planet. You cannot even achieve unity among your own kind. How can you expect to handle the power to manipulate stars? Because we need to, Elena replied. When humans face impossible challenges, we find impossible solutions. We have always done this. From fire to flight to splitting the atom, we take what seems impossible and make it real. The crystalline speaker's form brightened, and Elena could sense its amusement growing. Your confidence is entertaining, little human, but confidence without wisdom leads to destruction. The power to manipulate stars has existed for millions of years. It requires understanding that takes millennia to develop. Your species has barely learned to leave your own planet. Elena stepped closer to the podium's edge. Then teach us. Start with the basics. We will prove we can handle the responsibility. No! The word rang through the chamber with absolute finality. The speaker continued. Stellar engineering technology remains restricted to council members with proven wisdom and stability. Your species may apply again in 10,000 years, assuming you survive that long without destroying yourselves. Elena felt the dreams of her entire species crashing down around her. Billions of people on Earth were depending on this moment, and the Council was dismissing them like children asking for dangerous toys. You will not even consider it? She asked. We have considered it thoroughly, replied the metal being. Your species shows classic signs of dangerous ambition without wisdom. You seek power to solve problems that stem from your own lack of self-control. Until you prove you can govern yourselves peacefully for several millennia, You remain a risk to galactic stability. Elena looked around the chamber at the ancient beings who had made their decision. She saw superiority in their postures, dismissal in their energy fields, and absolute certainty that they knew better than humanity ever could. "I see," Elena said quietly. "You have decided that humanity is too young, too foolish, too dangerous to be trusted with this technology." "Precisely," the speaker confirmed. "Your hearing is concluded. You may return to your world and focus on achieving basic planetary unity. Perhaps your descendants will be worthy of our consideration." Elena nodded slowly. "Thank you for your time, honored council members. You have taught us something very important today." The speaker's crystalline form tilted slightly. "And what is that, young human?" Elena smiled, and for the first time, since entering the chamber, she felt completely calm. "You have taught us that if we want something done, we will have to do it ourselves." She turned and walked away from the podium. Her delegation followed, their footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. Behind them, the council members returned to their discussions of galactic matters, already forgetting the brief interruption caused by the primitive humans. The journey back to Earth took 3 months aboard the fastest ship humanity could build. Elena spent those months thinking, planning, and making calls to every scientist, engineer, and researcher she knew. By the time their ship entered Earth's orbit, she had assembled a list of the most brilliant minds on the planet. Dr. Chen Wei, the quantum mechanics expert who had revolutionized particle physics. Professor Sarah Johnson, whose work on gravitational fields had earned her 3 Nobel Prizes. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the materials scientist who had created substances that shouldn't exist according to old theories. Dr. Amara Okafor, the mathematician, who solved problems others said were impossible. Elena called them all to a meeting at the International Space Research Facility. When they gathered in the secure conference room, she told them about the Council's rejection and their reasons for it. "They think we are too young to understand stellar engineering," she explained. "They believe it takes millions of years to develop the wisdom necessary to handle such power safely." Dr. Chen leaned back in his chair. "And what do you think?" "Elena? I think they are about to learn something about human nature," Elena replied. "When someone tells us something is impossible, we make it possible. When someone says we are not ready for something, we get ready. When someone denies us what we need to survive, we find another way." Professor Johnson smiled. "You want us to develop stellar engineering technology without their help." "Not just develop it," Elena said. "I want us to surpass it. I want us to show the galaxy what humans can accomplish when we put our minds to something. The Council wants to protect their monopoly on stellar manipulation. Fine, we will break that monopoly." Dr. Tanaka looked around the table. "This would be the largest scientific undertaking in human history. It would require international cooperation on a scale never attempted before." "Then we make it happen," Elena said simply. "The alternative is watching our world slowly die while ancient aliens lecture us about patience." Dr. Okafor pulled out her tablet and began making calculations. "We would need massive resources, unlimited research funding, and the best minds from every nation working together. The energy crisis affects everyone," Elena pointed out. "Every government on Earth has a stake in solving this problem. When they understand what we are proposing, they will support us." Dr. Chen stood up and walked to the window overlooking Earth. "You realize this could take decades, maybe longer?" Elena joined him at the window. "The Council said our species might be ready in 10,000 years. I say we will be ready in 50. She turned back to the group. "Gentlemen, ladies, we are about to attempt something that ancient civilizations say is impossible for a young species. We are going to build humanity's first star destroyer, and when we succeed, the galaxy will never underestimate us again." The room fell silent as each scientist considered the magnitude of what Elena was proposing. Then, one by one, they began to nod. In that moment, Project Prometheus was born, and humanity took its first step toward becoming a force that would reshape the stars themselves. 3 years after the Council's rejection, the asteroid Ceres hummed with activity that would have amazed any observer. What had once been a lifeless rock floating in the asteroid belt now hosted the largest construction project in human history. Massive excavation machines had carved deep into the asteroid's core, creating vast chambers that housed laboratories, manufacturing facilities, and living quarters for over 50,000 workers. Dr. Elena Vasquez floated through the main corridor of Research Station Alpha using the gentle push-off movements that had become second nature in the low-gravity environment. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the skeleton of humanity's first star destroyer taking shape in the construction bay. The ship stretched nearly 10 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull plates gleaming with exotic materials that human science had never produced before this project. Elena reached the central laboratory where Dr. Chen Wei was working on the quantum containment system. The lab buzzed with energy fields and holographic displays showing equations that hurt to look at directly. Chen looked up from his workstation, his hair now completely gray from years of intense research. "The exotic matter is responding better than we hoped," Chen said, gesturing to a containment field that held something that appeared to bend space around itself. "We can now generate and control it in quantities that would power entire cities. The problem is focusing it precisely enough for stellar manipulation." Elena studied the readouts on Chen's screens. The numbers represented breakthroughs that had taken humanity's greatest minds working together for 3 straight years. "What about the gravitational lens array? Is Professor Johnson making progress?" "See for yourself," Chen replied, pointing toward the testing chamber. Elena pushed off toward the adjacent laboratory where Professor Sarah Johnson was calibrating massive gravitational field generators. The machines looked like chrome trees with branches that sparked with controlled energy. Johnson herself was suspended in a safety harness, making adjustments to equipment that operated in gravitational fields strong enough to crush a human body. "Elena," Johnson called out, not taking her eyes off her work. "Perfect timing. Watch this." Johnson activated. The array and space itself seemed to twist in the testing chamber. A small asteroid fragment placed in the center of the field began to stretch and compress as gravitational forces far stronger than Earth's pulled it in different directions. Within seconds, the rock was reduced to its component atoms, then compressed into a sphere of pure energy. "We can create gravitational fields precise enough to manipulate matter at the stellar level," Johnson explained as she powered down the array. "Combined with Chen's exotic matter injection system, we should be able to trigger controlled stellar collapse and expansion." Elena nodded, feeling the excitement that had driven her team for 3 years. "What about materials for the ship itself? Can Dr. Tanaka's new alloys handle the forces we are talking about?" "Better ask her yourself," Johnson said, pointing to another laboratory. Elena made her way to the materials testing facility, where Dr. Yuki Tanaka was subjecting metal samples to conditions that mimicked the interior of stars. The laboratory looked like a chamber from a science fiction movie, with walls lined by devices that generated temperatures and pressures found nowhere else in the solar system. Tanaka stood before a control panel, monitoring the stress tests on hull materials that would need to survive proximity to stellar phenomena. The samples glowed white-hot in their testing chambers, but the monitoring systems showed they remained structurally stable. "The new titanium exotic matter composite can withstand temperatures up to 12 million degrees, Tanaka reported. "The hull plating will hold together even during direct stellar manipulation. We have also developed energy shielding that can deflect solar radiation and particle streams." Elena examined the test results on Tanaka's displays. "And the power systems? Can we generate enough energy to operate all these systems simultaneously?" "That is where Dr. Okafor's work becomes critical," Tanaka replied. "The mathematical models for energy distribution are unlike anything we have attempted before. Elena found Dr. Amara Okafor in the computational center, surrounded by quantum computers that processed calculations at speeds that still amazed Elena. Okafor was studying holographic models of energy flow through the Star Destroyer's systems, making adjustments that would optimize power distribution during stellar manipulation operations. "The energy requirements are staggering," Okafor explained as Elena approached. "To manipulate a star, we need to generate and focus more power than humanity has ever produced. But I think we have solved the problem." Okafor gestured to her models, which showed energy flowing through the ship's systems like blood through arteries. "We use the ship's exotic matter core not just for stellar manipulation, but as a power source. The same technology that lets us affect stars also powers every system on the ship. It creates a feedback loop where the more powerful our stellar manipulation becomes, the more energy we have available." Elena studied the models, seeing the elegant solution that Okafor had developed. "So the ship becomes more powerful as it operates?" "Exactly. Each stellar manipulation event actually charges the ship's systems for the next operation. We could theoretically operate indefinitely without external power sources." Elena felt a surge of pride in her team's accomplishments. They had taken the impossible challenge of stellar engineering and found not just a solution, but a revolutionary approach that surpassed anything the Galactic Council had developed. She made her way to the command center, where the project's military liaison, Captain Maria Santos, was coordinating with construction teams throughout the asteroid base. Santos had been chosen to command the first Star Destroyer, and her experience with space operations had proven invaluable during the construction phase. "Status report, Captain," Elena requested as she entered the command center. Santos looked up from the holographic displays, showing construction progress throughout the facility. "Hull assembly is 60% complete. All major systems are on schedule for installation. We should be ready for initial power-up tests within 6 months." Elena nodded, then asked the question that had been bothering her for weeks. "Any signs of alien surveillance? The Council will not ignore our activities forever." Santos pulled up another display showing sensor readings from throughout the solar system. "We have detected several unidentified objects conducting long-range scans of the asteroid belt. Nothing has approached close enough to get detailed information about our construction, but they know something significant is happening here." "Let them watch," Elena said. "By the time they understand what we are building, it will be too late to stop us." She moved to the observation deck that overlooked the main construction bay. Below her, thousands of workers and robotic systems continued the assembly of humanity's first Star Destroyer. The ship represented more than advanced technology. It embodied the determination of an entire species to control their own destiny. Elena thought back to the Galactic Council chamber where ancient beings had dismissed humanity as too young and foolish for stellar engineering. They had no idea that their rejection had lit a fire in human hearts that would burn until it reshaped the galaxy itself. Dr. Chen joined her at the observation window. "Do you ever wonder if they were right about us being too young for this kind of power?" Elena watched the Star Destroyer taking shape below them, its hull gleaming with materials that had never existed before human ingenuity created them. "Every species starts young, Chen. The difference is that when humans are told we cannot do something, we prove them wrong. The Council learned their stellar engineering over millions of years of cautious experimentation. We will master it in decades of focused determination." "And then what?" Chen asked. "What happens when we succeed?" Elena smiled as she watched human workers and machines creating something that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. "Then the Council learns that humanity does not ask permission to reach for the stars. We take them." The construction continued around the clock, with work crews from every nation on Earth contributing their expertise to Project Prometheus. Former enemies worked side by side, united by the shared goal of proving human capability to the galaxy. The Star Destroyer grew larger each day, its systems becoming more sophisticated as new breakthroughs emerged from the research laboratories. Elena knew that somewhere in the depths of space, alien observers were trying to understand what humanity was building in the asteroid belt. They would learn soon enough. The galaxy had refused to share its stellar engineering technology with humanity, so humanity would develop their own. And when the first Star Destroyer emerged from its construction bay, every advanced civilization would understand that a new force had risen among the stars. The age of human stellar engineering was about to begin, and it would reshape everything. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, watching the red dwarf star grow larger on the main display screen. After 7 years of construction and preparation, humanity's first Star Destroyer was finally approaching its target. The ship hummed with power from exotic matter cores that had taken the best human minds decades to perfect. Behind her, the bridge crew monitored systems that no human had ever operated before. "Range to target star, 2 million kilometers and closing," reported Lieutenant Commander Park from the navigation station. The young officer's voice carried the excitement that everyone on the ship felt. They were about to attempt something that alien civilizations claimed was impossible for a species as young as humanity. Santos studied the tactical display showing their target system. The red dwarf was old and dying, its light barely enough to warm the handful of dead planets that orbited it. No life existed here, making it perfect for humanity's first test of stellar manipulation technology. But this mission was about more than testing equipment. Today, humanity would send a message to the galaxy. "Dr. Vasquez, are your teams ready?" Santos asked, turning toward the science stations where Elena and her researchers monitored the Star Destroyer's exotic systems. Elena looked up from her console, where streams of data showed the condition of every system aboard the massive ship. "All stellar manipulation systems are operating within normal parameters. Exotic matter injection systems are charged and ready. Gravitational lens array is calibrated for stellar core penetration." Santos nodded and opened a communication channel to Earth. "Mission Control, this is Prometheus. We have reached the target system and are beginning final approach to the star. All systems are green." The response came back after a brief delay, caused by the vast distance to Earth. "Prometheus, this is Mission Control. You are cleared for stellar manipulation operations. The entire world is watching. Make us proud." Santos closed the channel and took a deep breath. Through the bridge windows, she could see the star that humanity was about to kill and rebirth. It appeared small and dim compared to Earth's sun, but Santos knew that even a dying star contained more energy than human civilization had used in its entire history. "All stations report readiness for stellar manipulation," Santos ordered. "Exotic matter cores at maximum output," Dr. Chen reported from the engineering station. "Containment fields are stable. We have enough exotic matter to trigger stellar collapse in a star 10 times this size. Gravitational lens array is focused and ready," Professor Johnson announced from the stellar engineering station. "We can create gravitational fields precise enough to compress the star's core to nuclear density. Energy distribution systems are optimized for stellar manipulation operations," Dr. Okafor reported from the power management station. "All systems will have sufficient power throughout the operation. Hull integrity is at 100%. Dr. Tanaka reported from the materials monitoring station. "The ship can withstand direct stellar radiation and particle bombardment." Santos felt a moment of pride in her crew and the ship they had built together. The Prometheus represented the best of human engineering and determination. Every system aboard the ship was a breakthrough that had pushed the boundaries of human science. "Very well," Santos said. "Begin stellar manipulation sequence. Dr. Vasquez, you may proceed when ready." Elena's hands moved across her control panel with practiced precision. Years of simulation and preparation had led to this moment. Initiating exotic matter injection sequence, targeting stellar core. On the main display, energy beams invisible to normal vision reached out from the Prometheus toward the red dwarf star. The exotic matter streams penetrated the star's outer layers and drove deep into its core, where nuclear fusion had been slowly dying for millions of years. Exotic matter injection successful, Elena reported. We are detecting massive increases in stellar core density. Nuclear fusion rates are increasing rapidly. Santos watched the displays as the dying star began to change. The dim red light grew brighter as the exotic matter injection triggered reactions that the star had not experienced in eons. How long until critical density? Approximately 30 minutes, Elena replied. The star is responding exactly as our models predicted. Core temperature is rising rapidly. Santos opened another communication channel. All ships, maintain safe distance from the star. We are approaching critical phase of the operation. The observation fleet that had followed Prometheus to witness this historic moment began moving to a safer distance. Representatives from every nation on Earth were aboard those ships, along with reporters who would broadcast humanity's achievement to the entire solar system. Initiating gravitational lens array, Professor Johnson announced. Creating focused gravitational fields around the stellar core. The space around the red dwarf began to distort as gravitational forces far stronger than the star's own gravity compressed its core. The star's surface became unstable as massive energy waves rippled outward from its center. Core compression. At 50% of target density, Elena reported. Stellar luminosity has increased by 300%. The star is fighting the compression, but the gravitational lenses are holding. Santos watched the star transform before her eyes. What had been a dim, dying ember was now blazing with light that outshone much larger stars. The exotic matter injection had given the star new fuel for nuclear fusion, while the gravitational compression was forcing those reactions to occur at an accelerated rate. Core compression at 75%, Elena continued. We are approaching the point of no return. Once we reach critical density, the chain reaction will be unstoppable. Understood, Santos replied. Continue the operation. On the display, the red dwarf star was now blazing like a beacon across space. Its light had changed from dim red to brilliant white as the core temperature reached levels not seen since the star's formation billions of years ago. Core compression at 90%, Elena announced. Energy output has increased by 2,000%. We are detecting massive particle emissions from the stellar surface. Santos felt the ship vibrate slightly as waves of energy from the transforming star washed over the Prometheus. The exotic shields held firm, protecting the crew from radiation that would have killed them instantly. Core compression at 100%, Elena called out. Critical density achieved. The star is now undergoing controlled supernova collapse. On the main display, the star began to pulse with light brighter than anything Santos had ever seen. The stellar core, compressed beyond its natural limits and flooded with exotic matter, could no longer maintain its structure. Nuclear reactions that should have taken millions of years were happening in minutes. All ships, emergency withdrawal. To minimum safe distance, Santos ordered. Stellar collapse is accelerating beyond our projections. The star's surface began to expand rapidly as the core collapse triggered a massive explosion. But this was not a natural supernova that would destroy everything in the system. The exotic matter injection and gravitational control systems were channeling the explosion's energy in controlled patterns. Supernova initiation successful, Elena reported, her voice filled with awe. Energy release is following predicted patterns. The star is dying, but it is dying according to our design. Santos watched as the red dwarf that had burned dimly for billions of years exploded in a controlled blast that lit up the entire system. The explosion expanded outward in beautiful, symmetrical patterns as the exotic matter guided the energy release. Where the star had been, a new nebula was forming. The controlled supernova had scattered heavy elements across the system, creating clouds of gas and dust that would eventually form new planets. The death of one star had provided the materials for countless worlds to be born. Mission accomplished, Santos announced to the bridge crew. Stellar manipulation successful. We have demonstrated controlled stellar collapse and directed supernova generation. The cheers that erupted from the bridge were echoed throughout the ship as word of their success spread. Humanity had done what the Galactic Council claimed was impossible. They had learned to kill stars and birth nebulae according to their will. Santos opened a communication channel to Earth. Mission Control, this is Prometheus. Stellar manipulation operation completed successfully. The target star has been converted to a heavy element nebula as planned. All ship systems remain operational. The response from Earth was immediate and filled with joy. Prometheus, congratulations on making history. You have just announced humanity's arrival as a stellar engineering species. The entire solar system is celebrating. Santos looked at the beautiful nebula that now occupied the space where a dying star had been. The colors were magnificent, with blues and purples and golds swirling in patterns that would be visible from Earth with telescopes. But Santos knew this moment was about more than creating beauty in space. The energy signature from their controlled supernova would be detected by every advanced civilization in this part of the galaxy. The Galactic Council would know that humanity had achieved stellar engineering technology, and they would understand that everything had changed. Elena approached Santos as the bridge crew continued their celebrations. Captain, we are receiving long-range sensor contacts, multiple ships. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, watching the largest alien fleet in recorded history emerge from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. 50 massive ships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with technologies that had been perfected over millions of years. Each vessel was larger than any human ship except the Star Destroyers, and their energy signatures indicated weapons capable of sterilizing planets. Fleet composition analysis complete, reported Commander Rodriguez from the tactical station. We count 47 heavy cruisers and 3 Dreadnought-class vessels. Energy signatures match known Galactic Council configurations. Chen studied the tactical display showing the alien fleet's approach vector. They were heading directly for Earth, and their formation suggested they expected little resistance from humanity's defenses. The Council had clearly decided that humanity's stellar engineering achievements required immediate action. Communications from the lead vessel, announced Lieutenant Park from the communications station. They are requesting immediate surrender of all stellar manipulation technology and submission to Council oversight. Chen almost smiled at the aliens' assumption that they could simply demand humanity's compliance. 3 years had passed since the Prometheus had demonstrated controlled stellar collapse at the red dwarf star. 3 years during which humanity had been very busy preparing for exactly this moment. Open a channel to the alien fleet, Chen ordered. Let us see what the Council has to say. The main display flickered and showed the bridge of the lead alien vessel. The same crystalline being that had dismissed Elena Vasquez years ago materialized. In holographic form, its faceted surface reflecting light and patterns that suggested barely controlled anger. I am Council Speaker Veltar, the being announced. The species you call humanity will immediately cease all stellar engineering activities and submit to Council regulation. Your reckless manipulation of stellar phenomena threatens the stability of this entire galactic region. Chen stepped forward to face the holographic projection. I am Admiral Chen of the United Earth Star Fleet. Humanity appreciates the Council's concern, but we must respectfully decline your demands. The crystalline being's surface brightened with what Chen had learned to recognize as surprise. You decline. Young species, you clearly do not understand the situation. We have brought sufficient force to pacify your entire solar system. Your choice is compliance or consequences. Perhaps you should look around before making threats, Chen suggested calmly. On the alien bridge, Chen could see crew members turning toward their sensor stations with expressions of growing alarm. The Council fleet had been so focused on reaching Earth that they had not properly scanned the solar system they were entering. Speaker Veltar's form flickered as it processed the sensor readings its crew was reporting. This is impossible. Our sensors indicate massive artificial structures throughout your solar system, energy signatures that match stellar engineering technology. Chen smiled and gestured toward the tactical display. Allow me to give you a proper tour of our neighborhood, Speaker Veltar. The display zoomed out to show the entire solar system, highlighting the changes that humanity had made during the 3 years since their first stellar manipulation test. What the Council fleet saw would have seemed like science fiction just a decade earlier. The asteroid belt now hosts 17 major industrial complexes, Chen explained. Each one is capable of producing Star Destroyer-class vessels. We currently operate 6 Star Destroyers, with 4 more under construction. The display highlighted the massive ships stationed throughout the solar system. Each Star Destroyer was over 10 kilometers long and armed with exotic matter weapons capable of affecting stellar phenomena. They dwarfed the Council vessels in both size and firepower. Mars has been converted to a fortress world, Chen continued. Its orbital defense platforms utilize gravitational lens technology for both protection and offense. Jupiter's moons now host our primary exotic matter production facilities, generating more stellar manipulation capability in a day than most civilizations develop in centuries. Speaker Veltar's crystalline form had dimmed considerably as the scope of human preparation became clear. Your species has militarized stellar engineering technology. This confirms our assessment that you are too dangerous to be left unchecked. We have prepared for our own defense, Chen corrected. The galaxy made it clear that humanity would receive no protection from the Council. We decided to provide our own security. The alien speaker's form brightened again with renewed anger. You will cease these activities immediately. The Council has governed galactic civilization for millions of years. We will not allow a young species to destabilize the cosmic order with reckless stellar manipulation. Chen's expression hardened. And what gives the Council the right to make that decision? Because you are older? Because you have maintained control for so long that you believe it belongs to you by right? We have the wisdom that comes with age, Speaker Veltar replied. Your species demonstrates the dangerous impulsiveness of youth. Stellar engineering must be controlled by those who understand its consequences. Then perhaps you will understand the consequences of threatening us, Chen said quietly. At Chen's signal, tactical displays throughout the solar system lit up with targeting information. Every Star Destroyer and defense platform had focused their weapons on the Council fleet. More importantly, gravitational lens arrays on multiple installations had begun tracking the home stars of Council member species. Speaker Veltar's form flickered as its crew reported the targeting systems focusing on their fleet. You would not dare attack a Council enforcement fleet. Such an act would result in the complete destruction of your species. Would it? Chen asked. Or would it result in the complete destruction of several Council member homeworlds when our Star Destroyers reach their systems? The alien bridge fell silent as the implications became clear. Humanity had not just developed stellar engineering technology, they had weaponized it in ways the Council had never imagined. Star Destroyers could cross interstellar distances and crack open the home stars of any species that threatened Earth. This is madness, Speaker Veltar said finally. You would risk galactic war over your pride. We would risk galactic war over our survival, Chen replied. Your Council had the opportunity to include humanity and galactic civilization as partners. Instead, you chose to treat us as children who needed to be controlled. Now you discover that these children have grown up to be quite dangerous. Chen leaned forward toward the holographic projection. Here is humanity's counteroffer, Speaker. Veltar. The Council will formally recognize humanity as an independent stellar engineering species with full rights to manipulate any star in our territorial space. In return, we will not demonstrate our capabilities on the home stars of Council member species. The crystalline being's surface reflected light in rapid, agitated patterns. The Council does not negotiate with species that threaten galactic stability. Then the Council can explain to its member species why their home stars are going supernova, Chen said calmly. We have already calculated the gravitational resonance frequencies for 47 different stellar types, including every star that hosts a Council member homeworld. The threat was not idle, and everyone on both bridges knew it. Humanity had proven they could trigger controlled stellar collapse at a distance. Their star destroyers could reach any target in the galaxy, and no defense existed against weapons that manipulated the fundamental forces holding stars together. Speaker Veltar was quiet for several minutes, clearly communicating with other Council members through channels not available to the humans. When it finally spoke again, its tone had changed significantly. The Council requires time to consider. Your proposal, we will withdraw to a safe distance while discussions take place. You have 72 hours, Chen replied. After that, we will assume the Council prefers the alternative outcome. The communication channel closed, leaving the bridge of the Prometheus in silence. Chen watched the alien fleet beginning to withdraw from Earth's orbital space, their formation much less confident than when they had arrived. Commander Rodriguez looked up from her tactical station. Admiral, do you think they will agree to our terms? Chen studied the display showing the Council fleet's retreat. They have no choice. The balance of power in the galaxy just shifted, and they know it. For millions of years, the Council controlled stellar engineering technology and used that control to maintain their authority. Now they face a species that not only developed stellar engineering independently, but weaponized it in ways they never imagined. Dr. Elena Vasquez entered the bridge, her hair now completely white from years of intense research and development. The exotic matter production facilities are reporting full capacity output. If the Council chooses conflict, we can field 20 Star Destroyers within 6 months. Chen nodded, feeling the weight of command during humanity's most critical moment. Let us hope it does not come to that. War would be devastating for all species involved. But if the Council insists on treating humanity as a threat to be eliminated rather than a partner to be... Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the observation lounge of Luna Station, watching the latest generation of Star Destroyers depart for the Andromeda Galaxy. At 93 years old, she moved slowly, but her mind remained sharp as the day she had first challenged the Galactic Council. The ships disappearing into hyperspace were marvels that made the original Prometheus look primitive by comparison. The Andromedans are paying quite well for stellar renovation services, commented Director Sarah Kim, Elena's former student who now ran the Stellar Engineering Corps. 3 dead systems converted to productive worlds, plus mineral rights to everything we create in the process. Elena nodded, still amazed by how much the galaxy had changed in the 15 years since the Council's grudging recognition of humanity's stellar engineering rights. What had begun as a desperate quest for energy independence had evolved into humanity's most successful export industry. Any word from the hegemony contract? Elena asked, referring to humanity's latest client. Sarah consulted her tablet, scrolling through reports from across the galaxy. The Zeridian hegemony has formally requested our services to revitalize their home system's aging star. They are offering exclusive trading rights to their entire sector in exchange for extending their son's life by 2 billion years. Elena smiled at the irony. The Zeridians had been among the most vocal council members opposing humanity's membership 15 years ago. Now they were begging for human stellar engineering services to save their civilization from a dying star. And the Council's response to our expansion into Andromeda? Elena asked. Official silence, Sarah replied. Unofficial panic. 3 council members have quietly approached us about stellar engineering contracts, despite the official ban on hiring human services. Elena looked out at Earth, where the lights of a thriving world reflected the prosperity that stellar engineering had brought to humanity. The energy crisis that had once threatened human civilization was now a distant memory. Humans controlled the power of stars themselves, and they had learned to share that power profitably with the rest of the galaxy. Dr. Vasquez, called a voice from behind them. Elena turned to see Captain Torres, the current commander of the Star Destroyer fleet. Torres was young, part of the generation that had grown up taking humanity's cosmic power for granted. The council speaker is requesting another communication, Torres reported. Same demands as always. They want us to limit our stellar engineering activities to human space and stop accepting contracts from non-council species. Elena laughed, the sound carrying decades of satisfaction. And our response remains the same. Humanity provides stellar engineering services to any species willing to pay our rates and accept our terms. The Council's attempt to maintain their monopoly failed the day they rejected our membership application. Torres smiled and handed Elena a datapad. You might find this interesting. It's a request for proposal from a species in the Magellanic Clouds. They want us to trigger a controlled supernova to clear out a region infested with some kind of space-borne parasites. Elena studied the proposal, noting the technical challenges involved. Precision stellar manipulation in an extragalactic environment? That would require our most advanced star destroyers and the latest exotic matter injection systems. The payment they are offering would fund our research programs for the next century, Torres added. Plus, they are offering to share their biotechnology, advances which could revolutionize human medicine. Elena approved the proposal with her authorization code. Begin negotiations, but make sure they understand our standard terms. We provide stellar engineering services, but we do not involve ourselves in local politics or territorial disputes. Sarah looked up from her tablet with an expression of amusement. Speaking of politics, we just received a formal protest from the Council about our contract with the Andromedans. They claim we are destabilizing galactic power structures by providing stellar engineering to species outside Council control. The Council had their chance to include us in their power structure, Elena replied. They chose to exclude us. So, we built our own. Now they complain when other species bypass Council authority to hire human services directly. Elena walked to the large display screen that showed the current locations of all human star destroyers across the galaxy. Dozens of ships were scattered across thousands of light years, each one capable of reshaping star systems according to their clients' needs. The sight filled her with pride at what humanity had accomplished. How many requests are we receiving? Per month now? Elena asked. Over 300, Sarah replied. We are booked solid for the next 50 years, even with our expanded fleet. Demand for stellar engineering services far exceeds our capacity to provide them. Elena noted the species requesting services, recognizing names from across the galaxy. Many were council members hiring human services in secret despite the official ban. Others were independent species who had never been invited to join the council's exclusive club. The council created this situation themselves, Elena observed. They hoarded stellar engineering technology for millions of years, keeping it away from species they deemed unworthy. Now that humanity offers these services to anyone who can pay, they discover how many species need stellar engineering but were excluded from council benefits. Torres pointed to a section of the display showing the newest contracts. The most interesting requests are coming from species in the Outer Rim territories. They are offering not just payment, but alliance agreements. Some are proposing a formal coalition of non-council species with humanity as the senior partner. Elena considered the implications. Humanity's stellar engineering capabilities had given them influence far beyond their military power. Species across the galaxy were looking to Earth as an alternative to Council authority, creating new power structures that bypassed the traditional galactic hierarchy. "What does the Council think of these alliance proposals?" Elena asked. Sarah pulled up another report. "They are terrified. For the first time in millions of years, their control over galactic civilization is being challenged. Species that were once dependent on Council membership for access to advanced technology can now get stellar engineering services directly from humanity." Elena walked to another window that offered a view of the Star Destroyer construction yards. In Earth orbit, massive ships were taking shape, each one larger and more capable than the last. Human engineering had progressed rapidly, driven by the demands of clients across the galaxy. The latest Star Destroyers incorporate gravitational field generators that can manipulate multiple stars simultaneously, Elena noted, reading the technical specifications on her tablet. A single ship can now handle planetary system renovations that would have required our entire fleet 15 years ago. Torres nodded enthusiastically. "The new exotic matter synthesis techniques have revolutionized our capabilities. We can now generate exotic matter in quantities sufficient to trigger stellar phenomena in real time, rather than requiring hours of preparation." Elena smiled at the technical advances that continued to emerge from human research. The Council claimed it would take humanity millions of years to develop stellar engineering wisdom. Instead, we surpassed their capabilities in decades. "Dr. Vasquez," Sarah said, looking up from her communication console, "we are receiving a priority message from the exploration fleet. They have made contact with a species in the Andromeda galaxy that claims to have developed stellar engineering technology independently." Elena felt a surge of excitement. "Another species with native stellar manipulation capabilities? That changes everything." Sarah read from the message. "The Andromedans call themselves the Kethmori. They have been manipulating stars for approximately 50,000 years. But their technology is different from both human and Council approaches. They use biological methods to influence stellar phenomena." Elena considered the implications of this discovery. "Biological stellar engineering? That suggests an entirely different approach to cosmic manipulation. We must establish contact immediately." Torres consulted his tactical displays. "The exploration fleet reports that the Kethmori are interested in technology exchange. They want to learn about our exotic matter techniques in exchange for sharing their biological approaches." Elena approved the exchange immediately. "Authorize full cooperation." This could lead to breakthrough advances in stellar engineering that neither species could achieve alone. As Elena continued reviewing the reports from across the galaxy, she reflected on the journey that had brought humanity to this point. The Galactic Council's rejection had seemed like a catastrophe at the time, but it had forced humanity to develop capabilities that surpassed anything the ancient civilizations had imagined. "Dr. Vasquez," Sarah said quietly, "the Council speaker is requesting a private communication with you specifically. They claim to have an important proposal." Elena almost laughed at the irony. The same beings who had dismissed her as a representative of a primitive species now wanted to negotiate with her personally. "Put them through." The familiar crystalline form of Speaker Veltar appeared on the communication screen, its faceted surface reflecting light in patterns that suggested nervousness. The ancient being that had once lectured